Okay, when it comes to abstract classes, let's talk about this. An abstract method and an abstract class are defined with the keyword abstract. Makes sense. Abstract methods have no body, and their header must end with a semicolon. Right in the middle of your class definition itself. It looks or sounds like a prototype with a semicolon right in the middle of the class definition. There's no definition to the class, or excuse me, to the method. An abstract method must be overridden in a subclass. Yep. Remember we talked about class shape? It has a method called getArea, but it doesn't define it. It lets the subclass rectangle or the subclass cube or circle, it lets those specific subclasses provide their specific way of calculating the area for those different kinds of shapes. If a class or when a class contains an abstract method, it cannot be instantiated. It must serve as a superclass. So again, my example, class shape, you cannot create an object of class shape. An abstract class cannot be instantiated. It must be a superclass. Okay, all that, we get that. All right, let's go ahead up here and give you another example. Here we go. We have, excuse me, we have a class student. Okay, and this is going to be an abstract class, and it's abstract because it has a method in here called getRemainingHours that's not defined. It is an abstract method. Once you have an abstract method, you've got an abstract class. Okay, so we have an abstract class student, and we have different kinds of students at the university level. We have sociology majors and computer science majors and math majors. And so they all have a name, an ID number, and a year admitted. That's true. But then they have some things that are very specifically geared for their own particular majors. So here's our class student. We have three private attributes. We have a constructor. We have a toString. And we have a getRemainingHours that is abstract. That means that any class that's a subclass of student must implement this method and must implement it specific for their own needs. Okay, now here is compsci student.java, and compsci has some constants here, and it has some private attributes here. It has a constructor here. Notice the first thing it does, it calls the super constructor of student and passes this along. Okay, it has a set math hours, it has a set CS hours, it has a set general ed hours, right? And then this is where it overrides the getRemainingHours. It has a very specific getRemainingHours designed to meet the needs of a computer science student. So it takes the regular hours is equal to all these added up. Those are all the constants. And the remaining hours is whatever the regular hours the student took, whatever the regular hours are minus the hours, the math hours the student took, the CS hours he took, and the general ed hours that he took, and then we return the remaining hours. Actually, it has a toString method as well. Okay. That it will override the other toString method, but the first thing it does, you'll notice it calls it and it starts to build. We've seen this before. Okay, now here is our demo where we create a compsci student. Here it is, CS student. We create that student here. We call the constructor, and then we have the we set the math hours 12, 20, and 40. These are the hours that the student has taken. And then we will print CS student. That will call that student's toString method. And you know that that toString will call the toString from the student. Okay, and here's where it actually will get, it'll call the, it will say hours remaining, CS student.getRemainingHours. And we're actually going to call the specific getRemainingHours method right here that belonged, let's see here, right here, it belonged to class here, the comp sci student class. So remember, this class, since it extended student, had to implement its own version of get remaining hours. So that's really what an abstract class is, right, guys? It's a class that cannot be instantiated. It will have a method that won't have a definition, but it forces all the other subclasses to create a very specific method, okay, to meet the needs of those specific subclasses. That's it. That's all an abstract class is.